Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Lost Coast podcast. Today, we have a really special guest with us, Melissa Willis, and she's a business consultant that takes businesses to a new level through her new marketing strategies. So, if you'd like to make more profit in your business in the next 90 days, you should pay attention to what Melissa has to say today. Melissa, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Cory. I'm excited to be here.
Great. So why don't you start us off a little bit about your background, how you got started in this business and some of the stuff that got you going and made you passionate about it.
Sure. I spent a lot of time in sales and I spent a lot of time in the restaurant business. I spent a lot of time in the entertainment industry as well. So I have a varied background. About 10 years ago, a friend of mine asked me if I wanted to get involved in a coaching franchise. And I said, sure. I was kind of thinking about that anyway. I like telling people what to do. So it worked out well. Um, I don't always tell people what to do, but I started with a coaching franchise. And since that time, I decided to move away from the franchise model and just work for myself. And the passion for me comes from I know what business owners put into their businesses, and I understand the money, the time, the blood, sweat, and tears that go into a small business, medium, even a large business. And I really want to help people to be as successful as they want to be and keep the doors open and keep serving their communities because when we all win as business owners, our families win, our communities win. It's just winning all the way around. And I think if I can help people do that, then I've done a good thing.
Yeah. So you you've been in the businesses. You started out in this what was a franchise model. You said that you
Yep.
were doing it. Now you decided to go out on your own, do this beyond the franchise model, helping these small businesses to medium to large businesses, like you say. What when you take on these businesses, is there a sweet spot for the businesses? Like, as in, is there like someone who's just starting out, been in there for a little while, or is it a money gauge? What's kind of the parameters that our listeners should be looking for, as in how you can help them?
Great question. So there's no smallest or largest, but I tend to work with people, and I didn't even realize this for a period of time, but a client pointed out to me. I tend to work with people who get stuck. So I'm stuck at 500,000 in revenue and I don't know how to get past 500,000 to get to 1 million, or I'm stuck at 1 million and I really want to get to 2. And sometimes it's just a matter of looking inside the business. So, what I often tell people is if you want more customers or clients, they are often inside of your business. Sometimes it's a matter of taking 20 clients and offering them an additional service that you provide. Or sometimes it's just a price increase. I just met with a client before meeting with you here today, and they're a gym owner. They've never done a price increase ever. And so they're going to do a very small price increase and it's going to add a lot of money to their bottom line. So sometimes the solutions are really simple, but when you're inside of the business, it's hard to see the forest for the trees.
Yeah, I noticed that with some other businesses when they just do the little 2%, 3% increases on different products within what they offer, it becomes a
Yeah.
large amount of money at the end of the day. You don't have to hit them you don't have to wait, 5 years to hit with the 10, 20%, because then it's too big of a jump for everybody. They can't swallow. But if you
Yep.
hit those little mile markers at those 2, 3%, 4%, maybe even a 5%, jump on some products, especially like in the food industry. I mean, those are the easy ones to really make a difference on really quick because you got that fast turning of tickets that can come. So if you're making an extra 2, 3%, it's going to add up quick. And
Huge.
customers don't notice it so much. And if you're late to the game, then you're jumping the price up, to a whole $4 a plate or something. Now people notice that pretty fast,
For
you know,
sure.
and then it takes a while to get them to come back when they realize that you're just catching up.
Absolutely. And I think the big talk for a lot of business owners right now are credit card processing fees.
Yeah.
Who is meant to pay those? Does the customer pay those? Does the business pay those? You're going to get a different answer depending on who you ask. What are your thoughts on that?
The credit card fees are a tough one. I mean, everything gets passed down, let's face it, to the consumer. That's where the cost always is. I don't care how you want to draw it up. You want to
Yep.
draw it up in the cost of the materials you're selling, or if you want to, add it as a fee on there. I think naturally people don't like to see extra fees just because they
Mhm.
don't. So you need to, as an owner, you need to adjust your cost to accept all your costs. Put it in your pricing. Don't have a bunch of
Yes.
fees and other stuff labeled unless they can opt out of it for some reason. But in most cases, that's not our case. The other one, since you brought that one up, I'd like to talk about is some of these businesses, just use the restaurant again as an example, the automatic tip fee. They just
Ugh.
automatic piece on your ticket when you get it. It's an automatic tip, no matter what your service was, no nothing. And I feel I tip very well. But if it wasn't as good a service, I usually still send a tip, but I'm not going to tip out overly exaggerated. So, what's your feelings on that piece for business?
All right. So I look at this from a couple different perspectives. I started in that business as a server, as a bartender. And so there was a time that those tip dollars were really, really important to me. However, I am of the belief that the tip needs to be commensurate with the service, right? So if you want a 25% tip, you better be giving 25% service. I am not a fan of the automatic gratuity. I would say the exception would be maybe a larger party. You see that sometimes if it's a party of 8 or more, they're going to add in the gratuity. But even then, as a server, I was willing to roll the dice because I knew that I provided good service. I knew that I was really good with my tables. And so I was willing to take that chance. If a business is putting those numbers in and forcing the customer to pay it, that tells me as a consultant that there's a big training opportunity, huge training opportunity. You should train your people to give that level of service and not make the customers pay it. The customers should want to pay it, if that makes sense. That's where I stand on it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm not a big fan of, like you say, those fees and everything that are guaranteed because I think it just makes people, for lack of a better way of putting it, maybe just a little lazy, a little more relaxed. They're going to get the money anyways. And I'm with you
Yes.
on 100%. Tables 8 or more, you see that in a lot of restaurants, gratuity will be included at a certain rate, that's fine. When you're told that ahead of time, you get that. And you can always, if you felt you did not receive what you're paying, you can always go and make that adjustment ahead of time. But the other
Yeah.
piece about that is, and I've been guilty of it myself, I don't look at everything because we have a group of maybe 20 people. I wasn't keeping track of what everybody's ordered or whatever. I'm picking up the tab, right?
Yep.
Now I get the tab. I just take the number, 20%, boom, boom, throw a number down there for the tip. And now they've made a double tip and
Ugh.
no one says anything. And
Oh
it's not
yeah.
necessarily always their fault. Sometimes it's my fault because you write it, you leave it on the table, you're all walking out the door or whatever, you know. But I would think as a business owner, when that come across, you should pick up the phone and say, here's what happened. We understand what happened, check in with you. But I've never got a phone call, not once.
Mm-mm.
And I tell you what would happen if they did call me. I go, oh, my bad. I guess I was okay with it that night. I'm good with it now too. Tell them,
Yeah.
tell them thank you. It'll be, it's done deal. But I
Yeah.
think that's kind of a businesses, I think sometimes miss the relationship piece sometimes with their clients, which will build more business in the long run.
Yes, I think that's 100% true. To go back to the gym owner that I was just meeting with, I asked her if there was any program in place where if you didn't see a member for 2 weeks at the gym, does anyone pick up the phone and call the member? Hey, just want to make sure you're okay. We haven't seen you in a couple weeks. We miss seeing you around. When do you think you might be back? And I brought that up, and she said, we don't do anything like that. And I said, you've got somebody on your team on the marketing side who could do that for you. And the advantage of doing that is no one else is doing it. Think about the gym membership. The idea is the volume of people who never take the time to cancel, even when they haven't been in 6 months. Well, what if we flip the script and call the people and say, hey, we don't want you paying for something that you're not getting value from. And we miss seeing you around. How can we help you get back in here? You were doing so great. We want to keep the momentum going. And how different would it be if business owners started making those types of phone calls to their clients and customers? Nobody's picking up the phone anymore. People are relying on email, text messages, social media, right? I mean, you rarely hear people say, yeah, I just called 10 customers the other day just to check in and see how they were doing. Nobody's talking like that. And so the idea is, what I share a lot of times is, how can we serve our clients and customers in a way that nobody else is willing to do? And that's going to help us to stand out more.
Yeah, you brought up the marketing piece and mentioning, picking up the, like say, somebody pick up that phone call, make that double check in with them. I mean, that's a marketing piece on your own. Can you imagine when you ask that person, hey, haven't seen you in 2 weeks, we want to make sure you're getting the value out of this, you're not going to be coming back, maybe we can stop the charges, whatnot, not that a business owner ever wants to quit doing that.
Right.
Think about the word of mouth that you're
Yeah.
going to get from that person. Because you know what they did? I mean, that's a piece of advertisement you can't get when you get that third party validation in there. You just
That's right.
don't get that every day.
And I think that's where we are in 2024, when we have so many ways to reach people at our fingertips. We have, in many cases, lost that person to person feel, where it's, I'll just send them a text message.
Yeah.
Well, you can, that's fine. But are they going to pick up that you really care in that text message? What are they going to, you can't detect a tone in a text message. So what if you called them and really just made that personal connection? Or what if you just called and said, hey, we haven't seen you in a while. How are you? How's everything? Are you okay? Right? I think we did a little bit more of that in 2020, 2021 with COVID, when we were all like, we don't know who's getting sick and when, because who could track it?
Right.
And we did a little more of that. But then when that passed and got less than it was then, I think we all, we'll just go back to email. That's fine. We'll go back to email. How many times have you missed an email? I've certainly missed an email.
Oh, I don't even want to talk about my email bucket.
Oh,
I don't maintain that very well at all, but it's either missing them or thinking you're going to get back to them, and then it's left the page already. I mean, there's
right.
so many, technology has taken us so far in advance, but it inhibits us in the relationship piece. Like you said, people send text messages. You cannot get the feeling of what's coming across through a text message. And the worst part about it, you never know how they're going to perceive it. They could think it's
Right.
other way, like it's a bad thing when you're trying to make it a good thing. You never know what's going to happen anymore.
That's true. That's true. When you send something and somebody fires back and you read it and you go, oh God, that's not how I meant that at all. And now you've got to dig yourself out of that hole of miscommunication and try to get back on track, when the much easier thing to do is just pick up the phone, let them hear the excitement in your voice, even if it's just to say, oh my gosh, we dusted off this product that we had 5 years ago because everybody was asking for it, and I wanted to tell you about it first. Oh, you wanted to tell me about it first? Yeah, I want to tell you about it first. I thought it might benefit you the most. And here's what it is. You can't, it's hard to convey that excitement in a text or an email.
Yeah, I totally agree. The email texting thing, it's sometimes it's great for speed and getting the connection, but you need to do the touch up on the phone and say, hey, send that text and say, hey, let's talk. I got to talk to you real quick. Let's schedule a phone call. Let's do whatever we got to do and make something like that happen. The other thing is, I want to get on track here again on your business model that businesses come, because I'm sure the listeners are waiting like, okay, they said I can make more money in 90 days. How do you do this? So why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about your strategies and in the tasks that they're going to have to accept to work with you?
Sure, sure. If a business owner gives me their annual revenue, their gross profit margin, and their net profit margin, I will plug that into a proprietary software that I use. And then we will start to go through 12 different areas to start. We actually have up to 40 that we can look at, but I find you can make a lot of headway with 12. And we immediately start looking at things like cutting costs, little price increase. How can we upsell? How can we downsell? How can we cross sell? What opportunities are we leaving on the table in terms of being of great service to our clients and customers, um, adding more value to what we are already offering to our clients and customers, keeping in touch with them better. Everybody wants more leads, right? But there's a lot more to building your business than just getting more leads. And then, heaven forbid, let's say you do get more leads and you don't know what to do with them. I'm going to help you to figure out how can you best serve them? What can you put together that's going to give them so much value that they don't really care about the price? So price is only an issue in the absence of value. When people balk about price, it's because they don't see enough value. If there's tons and tons and tons of value, nobody cares about the price. They're going to pay it regardless. So I help people by looking at the numbers. And the big one I've been working with lately is cutting costs. I just helped two different clients, one who owns a restaurant, one who owns a plumbing company. All we did was shop around their workman's comp insurance. The restaurant owner is going to save 2 grand a year, and the plumber is going to save 3 grand a year. And that's just one insurance. Because, as a business owners need a lot of insurances that cover all sorts of various things. And most business owners put it on autopilot and don't think about it again because they have all these other things they need to think about. A $3,000 a year savings for a plumbing company, independently owned plumbing company, is a big deal. That's a really big deal. $2,000 for a restaurant, that's a big deal because the cost of everything is going up and it's going to keep going up. So if you can save these things here and there, you have to be willing to get on the phone and wheel and deal. And that's exactly what we did. We saved money on that. We saved money on alarm system services. We saved money on cable. We saved money on telephone. I looked at that P&L with a fine tooth comb and said, what can we cut? And in many cases, all we had to do was call and ask, hey, we're trying to cut costs here. How can you help us? And they wanted to keep the business and they were willing to help. Sometimes it's just an ask.
And if you send them a text message or an email, you're probably not going to get any response. So that's why you got to pick the phone up and start the negotiation process.
That's right.
They don't want to lose business either. Times are getting tough. Everything's marketing is there. So you have to make the adjustments to keep your existing and bring in new. It's
Absolutely.
It's a battleground that everybody's fighting for the same money.
Absolutely. And the price increase, I just helped an accounting firm add $26,000 to their bottom line by doing an 8.5% price increase, which they had not done in 10 years. No price increase. And it put 26 grand. directly back into the business owner's pocket, because when you cut costs and increase prices, those are profitability gauges. That's profit. That is not revenue. So that goes directly back into the bank account of the business owner. So revenue feeds the ego, as you know, profit feeds the family. So when you look at your profit, do you want to have ramen, or do you want to have a nice steak? It's really up to you. It's really
Yeah.
up to you. That's where profit comes in. How do you want to feed your family? How do you want to feed yourself? It's up to you. I can help. I can help, but I work hand in hand with the business owner. I'm not necessarily doing it for you. I'm usually doing it with you and helping you to stay on that track with these 12 different, up to 40 different areas that I work with.
Yeah. Do you find it that business owners have a tough time like swallowing that information, like to, especially raise the cost, right? I mean, because they think it's so tough. But I remember when I was in construction, a guy says, "Oh, if you're the lowest, per hour guy out there, contractor, right? You're going to get those clientele. Now, if you're up here, you're going to get those clientele because the perception is you get what you pay for kind of
Mhm.
system. So I always say I don't necessarily need to be the highest paid. I don't necessarily need to be the lowest paid, but I definitely want to be in the upper 30%. You know what
Oh,
I mean?
yeah,
You don't want to cut yourself short. And the other part of that is just doing a good job for the clients and keeping the relationship there and open.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, as in really in construction, in most businesses, if you are truly of service, then I think you're always on the right track. I think we all need to make a living, but I'm not asking anybody to directly pay my mortgage, you know? Yeah, of course I want to pay my bills like everybody else, but I'm also not charging $10,000 a month. I try to stay right middle of the road is what I'm trying to stay, middle of the road. And look, some people would fault me for saying this, and I'm okay with that. I My mission is to help business owners. So even if I have to start meeting with a client once a month for a very small fee, just to help them have some solid wins, and then we start talking about maybe meeting more, that's okay too. I just want to help businesses stay open. We will figure out the money part of it later.
Yeah, that's that's it's a win-win for everybody because you can show them that this is going to work. Take these steps. We'll just start here and we'll just grow this thing and make it all happen. So let's just say one of our listeners here is
Mhm.
like, "Hey, I want to talk to this Melissa. What? How? Number one, how do they get a hold of you? Number two, you know, what kind of offer are you going to give them if they mention the podcast today, so we can maybe drive some traffic right directly to you?"
Oh, sure. Thank you. So melissawilliscoaching.com is the easiest way to get a hold of me. And there are several different areas, different places you can click on my website where you can get a message directly to me. I am happy to work through what we call our roadmap plan, where I will plug in those numbers that we talked about, the annual revenue, the gross profit margin, the net profit margin. I will plug in those numbers and send a free report
Yep.
that basically says, you gave me your numbers. If we had just a 3% increase in these 12 areas, this is the difference you would see in your revenue. This is the difference you would see in your profit. What I love about what I do is, even if a person says, "Oh, Melissa, it's not the right time for me to work with you," or "I seriously don't have two nickels to rub together," they are still going to get a ton of value in the report. A lot of those things they can do on their own. But you and I both know business owners usually need some accountability, right? So I can be that accountability partner, but if they are really struggling and maybe just don't want help right now, the report will give them a lot of great information and they can implement it on their own. So my goal is, even if I speak to somebody one time, I want to provide value so that if I never see them again, they still got some value and they have some things they could implement right away that'll make a difference.
Well, that's awful generous. I mean, that's a great tool. Any business owner that's listening to this, I can't believe they wouldn't take you up on that. I mean,
Thank you.
what more do you want? It's something free. You get some great information that probably nobody's ever done for them before. That's the funny part. They all work with CPAs, some kind of maybe a financial advisor or somebody, but no one ever does that piece for them. And you're here willing to give it away for free.
Yep.
That's well, I can't. Listeners, I'm telling you right now, give Melissa a call. Melissa Willis Consulting, right?
Coaching,
Coaching.
melissawilliscoaching.com.
.com.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so
Thank you.
there you
Love to help.
there you go. So, Melissa, that was great. Is there another story you have for us that kind of brings us all together, a past client or something? I know you talked about gym owners and stuff like that, but give us one from start to finish of a client that you helped that has really changed that business's life.
Start to finish. So I have a lot of clients that have been with me for a very long time. Uh, uh, One story that's a start to finish story is a financial advisor that I worked with a few years ago. He built his practice on his own. He had a lot of great clients. I mean, I don't remember the exact number of millions of dollars, but he had millions of dollars in assets that he was guiding his clients on. I helped him with a really solid mission statement, a vision for where he wanted to go, his specific target market. We looked at looking at verbiage, how he was selling himself, how he was speaking about himself in the marketplace, and all of the numbers things that we just discussed. And he was close to retirement, and that was part of what we were working on, was the exit strategy. And he ended up, he and his wife, they've both retired. They are living in the mountains of Georgia, loving life. And he sold his practice very profitably to another group of financial advisors here in Louisiana. And that definitely was a start to finish. We had a solid starting point, a definite ending point, which was his retirement. And we worked together the whole way. And who he sold to, they're a solid group of advisors. It was a great sale. It was great for him. Everything about it was buttoned up very, very nicely. Now, to be fair, I helped along the way. He brokered that deal at the end. That was all him. But I think we had everything solidified in such a way that there were no questions about anything when he went in to make that sale. And it worked out beautifully.
Well, yeah, that's pretty much start to finish, isn't it?
Yeah.
Help him start it, help him, he got it sold. And let's face it, you helping him get it started made it worth more. So when you go to sell a business, the more it's worth, the more you're gonna get.
Amen.
I feel like a lot of business, like now, if you're thinking about getting out of the business in the next 3 to 5 years, you better call Melissa, get some more money put on that bottom line, make more profit. So when you sell out, you have that much more available in your pocket for retirement.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. So Melissa, I want to thank you today for coming. I think this was great. I think our listeners got some good information. If nothing else, I know I did. I've got some things running through my head already. So I want to thank you for coming, unless you got any last words to say to our listeners.
Oh, that's a dangerous thing. Last words to say. Listen, all I would say is keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. It's very easy to get stuck in the down times, but keep moving forward. You know, don't camp out in the down times. Get past those down times. Don't stay there. Um, and I always tell people, look, if I'm not the right fit for you, I will help you find somebody who is, because it's that important that you have some help and some guidance and an outside person who's going to help you and support you in a different way than the help and support you might have now.
Well, there you go, everybody. You heard it right here first. Melissa says, keep moving forward. So on that
Yes.
note, this is the Lost Coast podcast. We're going to be signing off, and we appreciate everybody listening in today. And we will see you all next time. Thank you for coming. Goodbye.